Hi there, I'm David. And one time, as I was getting off my flight, I picked up the wrong suitcase and became a millionaire because of it. But before anything else, don't forget to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up and hit that notification bell icon to show your support for me. No, I didn't randomly pick up a suitcase full of money and kept it. If it was that easy, it wouldn't be much of a story, now would it? Besides, I don't think I'd be the type of guy who'd subscribe to such a juvenile rule such as finders keepers, or at least I'd like to think so. Anyway, I was coming back from a year of backpacking through Asia, and somehow my flight was overbooked. And the ticket that I'd bought months before was basically rendered more useless than a feathered fedora. I was upset, of course. I wasn't the one who double booked my seat. Maybe I could have been earlier to the airport so whoever it was couldn't have bought my place on the flight. But that was the whole point of reserving the seat, wasn't it? There was nothing I could personally do anyway, so I just bit the bullet. The airline rep told me that they'd just put me on the earliest flight available. It turned out that meant that I would have to spend the night at the airport. Not a big deal to me, I thought. I've slept in worse places during the past year, and I wasn't about to spend on an overpriced hotel room close to the airport either. So I chose to sleep on one of the benches. Apparently I looked enough of a hobo that someone took pity on me. I woke up to a gentle tapping on my shoulder. When I opened my eyes, the ghastly fluorescent lighting of the waiting area hit me full in the eye and I had to squint. From what I could see, an extremely beautiful girl was looking down at me, the back of her head glowing with what looked to be a halo. When she spoke, it was the prettiest sound. "Hey," she said, tapping me again on the shoulder. "Are you alright?" I blinked twice at her. Did I die, somehow? Was this heaven? Why did heaven smell like Cinnabon and dead dreams? I blinked again. Huh? I said stupidly. "You're sleeping on the floor. Are you okay?" she asked again. I got up, embarrassed. That certainly wasn't where I started sleeping. I laughed awkwardly, gesturing at my pillow and backpack that were sitting on the bench I'd inadvertently left in my fitful sleep. Even the suitcase where I kept my sketches during my trip had joined me on the floor. I'm okay, I guess. Thanks. Not the best look, sleeping on the floor, so I felt myself turn a shade of red. "Why are you sleeping out here anyway?" the girl who introduced herself as Jackie asked. "Oh, I got moved to a later flight," I replied. "They didn't even give you a hotel room?" she said. "Do they do that?" I asked, perplexed. "I don't know," she replied. "They always do it for me." Probably 'cause you're first-class material, I thought. She definitely seemed like someone who didn't have to ask for an upgrade. Seeing the way she was dressed and how everything about her was impeccable and composed. To be fair, it also never occurred to me to ask that the airline compensate me in some way. I guess I was just used to inconvenience. Jackie certainly wasn't, as I soon found out. "Come," she said. "You shouldn't sleep out here." "Where are we going?" I asked when she instructed a couple of guys who were with her to pick up my stuff. Was it wise to just go along with strangers you meet at airports? Probably not. But my stuff was already being carted off, and so I had not much choice but to follow. Jackie took me to a completely different wing of the airport. It was way more luxurious and cleaner than where I'd chosen to sleep. Then she led me into the airline's lounge, and after talking to some people, she managed to get me a room there for the night. It was probably the most lavish room I'd ever stayed in. The sheets were so soft. There was a fully stocked fridge, and the gold-lined bathroom had a luxurious marble tub. Needless to say, I had a good night's sleep. I was awoken by the lounge staff to make sure I didn't miss my flight. And when I'd gotten myself ready, Jackie was waiting for me. It turned out we were on the same exact flight. With another wave of her magic wand, Jackie had my seat upgraded to be in first class with her. I protested, saying she'd already shown me enough kindness, but she insisted. Lucky for us, first class was barely booked, and so we got adjacent seats. I say seats, but they were more like cabins. Our seats full-on turned into beds, and the flight attendants came to tuck us in. What an entirely different reality the rich lived in, I remembered thinking. Jackie and I didn't do much sleeping during the flight. We talked and marathoned the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. By the end of the flight, I felt like I was with an old friend. She didn't feel like a stranger at all. When we were waiting for our bags, I thanked Jackie again for everything. I grabbed my backpack and my suitcase filled with sketches when they came around the carousel and hugged her goodbye. "It's nothing, nothing at all," said Jackie. "It was my pleasure, and you were great company. Besides, you've more than repaid me already," she added, holding up the sketch I drew for her on her journal. She smiled, and we parted ways. As I looked back for one last goodbye, I noticed she and I had the exact same suitcase. Huh, I thought. What a coincidence. It was only on the bus home that it clicked for me. I hurriedly reached for my suitcase and unlatched it open. And when I saw the contents, I immediately realized I'd taken her suitcase by mistake. It was full to the brim with papers in a language I didn't understand. And then, more tragedy, as it dawned on me that we didn't even get to exchange details. I had absolutely no way of reaching her. The first thing I did when I got home was look for her online. No Instagram, no Facebook, no Twitter. I decided to ask around if any of my friends knew someone of her description, but it became apparent very quickly that we obviously did not move in the same circles. I was close to giving up my search for her when a friend suggested, "Why don't you try looking for her name on a phone book?" Her full name was all I knew, and she certainly was not the only Jackie Smith on the phone book. That first day, I spent a couple hours on the phone, just dialing every Jackie Smith and crossing out the numbers I'd already called. My mom, who tended to be an opportunist, told me that evening, "You're gonna run up the phone bill. You better get a reward for this." "Mom," I said, "I'm not about to ask for a reward from a person who's already treated me so kindly. That's just greedy." "Are you calling me greedy? I feed you, clothe you, send you to school, and you're insulting me under my own roof? Might I remind you that you ran off to some third world country for a year instead of taking a job at your uncle's convenience store? Instead of helping me with the bills around here, you were helping some fat Asian kids who probably already receive enough aid from other people." "Mom!" I exclaimed. "What?" she asked. I walked up to my room dejected. I already missed not being home. It was around the third day that I finished calling all the Jackie Smiths on the phone book with no luck. But then, I saw that I missed one. I crossed my fingers for luck and dialed the numbers. "Hello?" came a stern old woman's voice. I was about to apologize for getting the wrong number again when I caught myself and asked, "Is Jackie there? Jackie Smith?" "Miss Smith is otherwise engaged. Who may I ask is phoning?" the old lady asked. My heart began to beat fast. Something was telling me I finally got the right place. It's... Would you tell her, please, that it's David? The guy she met at the airport. I took her suitcase by mistake, and I have it. I'd very much like to return it." It took me a while to realize that the old lady had already walked off. But when the phone got picked up again, the voice on the other side filled me with relief. Jackie arranged for someone to pick me up the next morning. She said she wanted to thank me properly, despite my repeated protests. But she insisted. She said it would be nice to see me again, and to give me my suitcase back in person. After an hour of being in the back of a limo, we went through a large gate. And then it must have been a 5-minute drive from the gates to the actual house. Only, it wasn't a house. It was a palace. I'd never seen a house that huge before. And it showed. "What's with that face?" Jackie asked me when she greeted me as soon as I got off the limo. Your house!" I exclaimed. "You live in a castle!" Jackie just laughed that off. She gave me a tour, showed me to their garden, and we had a small picnic. She thanked me again and explained how those documents were priceless to her. I told her it was the least I could do. She ended offering me a job at her company. "Why don't you work for us? We could use more honest guys like you." And since my options at the time were to either work at my uncle's convenience store or work for a multi-million enterprise, I said yes. Jackie hugged me before her driver took me back home. She thanked me again and handed me my suitcase back. It was much heavier than I remembered it being. Before we drove away, she gave me a small wink and said, "The sketches were beautiful. I left you a small gift." "You really didn't have to," I said, and then she waved us away. When I got home, I was eager to find out what she meant by saying that she left me a gift. And my mom stood over me, demanding an answer to whether or not I got a reward. I opened the suitcase, and what I saw made me weak in the knees. Under my sketches lay $1 million in cash. My mom fainted. I called Jackie and asked why there was so much money in there. She simply laughed and said, "Consider that my thanks. I said the documents were priceless, but $1 million seems a fair price.